Welcome to Informed Tourist AI, where we explore the grittier side of travel. Today we're diving into the top 10 most racist cities on Earth. This isn't about ranking cities arbitrarily, it's about shedding light on places with simmering racial tensions, where being a minority can mean facing daily prejudice. Buckle up, we're touring racially charged destinations. Stick around and subscribe to Informed Tourist AI. Now on with the show. Kicking off our list at number 10 is Budapest, Hungary, a city known for its stunning architecture and thermal baths. However, Hungary's government, led by Prime Minister Viktor Orban, isn't known for its progressive stance. They've built fences to keep out refugees and demonized immigrants. It's like they took a crash course in how to alienate everyone in 10 easy steps. So if you're not a fan of casual racism with your goulash, Budapest might not be the ideal vacation spot. And don't even get me started on the racial profiling. Imagine, if you will, being stopped by the police for the crime of walking down the street while not being white. It's enough to make you want to pack your bags and hop on the next train out of Dodge, or in this case Buda and Pest. But wait, there's more. Hungary also has a bit of a Roma problem, and by problem I mean a deeply ingrained societal prejudice that manifests itself in everything from discrimination in housing and employment to outright segregation. It's almost as if someone looked at the history of racial injustice in the world and thought, you know what, we could really use a little more of that here in Hungary. And thus, Budapest has earned its spot on our list of the top 10 most racist cities. Congratulations, Budapest. You've achieved a level of intolerance that would make even the most jaded cynic blush. Athens, Greece, the birthplace of democracy, now grapples with far-right extremism. Groups like Golden Dawn rose during Greece's economic crisis, spreading nationalism, racism, and anti-immigrant sentiment. Though disbanded in 2020, their ideology persists. Athens reminds us that racism can rear its ugly to cast a long shadow. Ah, Rome, the eternal city, a place where history oozes from every cobblestone and ancient ruin. But amidst the gladiatorial ghosts and overpriced gelato, there lurks a darker side to this iconic city. Rome wasn't just built on 7 hills but also on a foundation of, well, let's just say it rhymes with schmossism. Fast forward a couple of millennia and not much has changed. African and Middle Eastern migrants often face a harsh reality. Discrimination is as commonplace as bad tourist fashion. The Roma community faces centuries of prejudice and misinformation. Forced evictions, limited access to education, and social exclusion are just the tip of the Colosseum. Now, I know what you're thinking, John, isn't Italy known for its passionate people, delicious food, and Silvio Berlusconi's bunga bunga parties? Yes, but also, have you met a Roman politician lately? Racism in Rome is subtle, insidious, and woven into society. It's the landlord who refuses to rent to someone with a foreign-sounding name. It's the shop owner who follows black customers around. Beneath its picturesque facade, Rome grapples with a persistent problem. Next up on our whirlwind tour of global racism, the United States of America. And what better representative of this fine nation's struggles with racial equality than St. Louis, Missouri, home of the Gateway Arch, toasted ravioli, and unfortunately, some of the most deeply entrenched racial disparities in the country. Now, St. Louis has a long and storied history, and by storied I mean riddled with deeply troubling chapters on racial segregation. We're talking redlining, housing discrimination, and a police department that seems to have missed the memo on that whole protect and serve thing, particularly if you happen to be black. And who could forget the tragic death of Michael Brown in Ferguson, a suburb of St. Louis, back in 2014? It was a stark reminder that for black Americans, even the most mundane activities like walking down the street can be fraught with danger. The protests that followed were a testament to the simmering anger and frustration that had been building for generations. But hey, at least they have good barbecue, right? You see, St. Louis is a city divided. And I'm not just talking about their allegiances to the Cardinals or the Blues, I'm talking about a deep, systemic divide based on race. On one hand, you have predominantly white neighborhoods with good schools, safe streets, and access to opportunities. And on the other hand, you have predominantly black neighborhoods plagued by poverty and crime. This isn't just bad luck, it's the result of decades of discriminatory policies. Things like redlining trapped black families in segregated neighborhoods. Discriminatory hiring practices make it harder for black residents to find jobs, and the criminal justice system disproportionately targets black people. The Gateway Arch casts a long shadow over a city grappling with its troubled past and present. Next up on our delightful trip through humanity's failings, we arrive in Brazil, land of carnival, caipirinhas, and a whole lot of people pretending that racism doesn't exist. And nowhere is this cognitive dissonance more apparent than in Sao Paulo, Brazil's bustling economic powerhouse and a city that's practically bursting at the seams with contradictions. Now Brazil has long marketed itself as a racial democracy, a melting pot of cultures where everyone, regardless of skin color, can samba their way to success. And while it's true that Brazil has a rich and complex racial history, this whole racial democracy thing, yeah, about that. Because beneath the vibrant facade of carnival floats and samba beats lies a much darker reality, one where Afro-Brazilians face staggering levels of inequality and discrimination on a daily basis. It's like trying to order a non-alcoholic caipirinha. It might be on the menu, but good luck actually getting someone to serve it to you. And if you think I'm exaggerating, let's talk about police brutality, shall we? Some argue Brazil's problem is classism, not racism. But race and class are intertwined. Centuries of slavery created a deeply unequal society. Skin color predicts socioeconomic status. Afro-Brazilians face poverty, lower education, and discrimination. Until Brazil confronts its legacy, racial democracy is just a slogan. Ah, Delhi, the heart of India, a city pulsing with life, culture, and the intoxicating aroma of street food. It's also a city steeped in history, some of it glorious, some of it, well, less so. Sadly, Delhi has a history of discrimination. The caste system, though officially abolished, still lingers. Modern prejudice also persists, affecting African students and workers. They face xenophobia instead of the warm embrace of Atithi Devo Bhava. Reports of attacks against African residents are not uncommon. It's a shame because nobody wants their samosas seasoned with bigotry. Discrimination isn't just for those crossing continents to reach Delhi. Even within India, prejudice thrives. Northeasterners often face suspicion and prejudice in Delhi. Imagine being treated like a foreigner in your own country. It's like using the Unity in Diversity brochure to swat a fly. Prejudice persists like a stain on a white kurta. While we celebrate India's vibrancy, we must acknowledge its dark undercurrents. So, if you're visiting Delhi, pack patience and common sense. Next, we find ourselves in Beijing, the beating heart of the People's Republic of China. A nation renowned for its ancient history, its booming economy, well, let's just say its government probably wouldn't appreciate our brand of satire. But hey, we're not here to talk politics, we're here to talk about racism, a topic that transcends borders and ideologies. And when it comes to racial inclusivity, China, much like its Great Wall, seems to have a bit of a wall up itself. Now, China likes to present itself as a homogeneous society, but scratch beneath the surface and you'll find a complex tapestry of ethnicities. However, if you happen to be black in Beijing, be prepared for a crash course in China's less welcoming side. African students and workers in Beijing have reported facing discrimination in housing, employment, and even just day-to-day interactions. It's almost as if some people in Beijing skipped the memo that the Cultural Revolution ended decades ago. But things took a particularly nasty turn during the COVID-19 pandemic. Remember that global crisis that seemingly originated in China? Well, in a truly unfortunate turn of events, African communities in China became scapegoats for the virus. People of African descent, regardless of their travel history or health status, were suddenly deemed walking biohazards. They were evicted from their homes, denied service in shops and restaurants, and subjected to forced testing and quarantine measures that reeked of racial profiling. It was a shameful display of xenophobia that exposed the ugly underbelly of prejudice lurking beneath the surface of Chinese society. And let's be clear, blaming an entire race for a virus? That's about as effective as trying to extinguish a dumpster fire with a super soaker. So, while China may be a global powerhouse, it seems they still have a long way to go when it comes to fostering a truly inclusive society. Because folks, diversity isn't a threat, it's a bloody strength. Next up on our delightful world tour of racial intolerance, we arrive in Moscow, the majestic capital of Russia. A city steeped in history, adorned with onion-domed cathedrals, and home to a certain, how shall we say, assertive political leadership. Now, Russia has a long and complicated history with race and ethnicity, dating back to the days of the czars and their fondness for, well, not exactly embracing diversity. And sadly, some things never seem to change. Because despite its attempts to project an image of strength and unity, Russia, particularly Moscow, has a bit of a reputation for, shall we say, being less than welcoming to those who don't quite fit the mold. Foreigners, especially those from Africa, Central Asia, and the Caucasus region, often find themselves navigating a minefield of prejudice, discrimination, and in some cases, outright violence. Moscow is a cosmopolitan city, a melting pot of cultures, yet xenophobia simmers beneath the surface, erupting in violence. Hate crimes and discrimination are a reality for many. Moscow's layers reveal a more intolerant society. The Ukraine conflict adds complexity. Nationalism fuels xenophobia and suspicion. Beneath Moscow's beauty lies a troubling reality. Ah, Paris, the city of love, the city of lights, the city of surprisingly frequent discrimination? Yeah, turns out even the most romantic city in the world isn't immune to a bit of prejudice. Now, you might be picturing charming cafes and strolling along the Seine, but for many Black, Arab, or Muslim individuals, Paris can feel more like a minefield of microaggressions. We're talking random police stops, suspicious stares at upscale restaurants, and that special brand of French indifference that feels a lot like, well, hostility. And let's not forget the banlieue. These suburbs, often home to marginalized communities, are a stark reminder of the economic and social disparities that plague this city. It's almost as if Paris is saying, sure, come for the Eiffel Tower, but don't you dare try to integrate into our perfectly curated baguette-filled utopia. Speaking of integration, let's talk about transportation, shall we? Because if you think hailing a cab in Paris is as easy as it looks in the movies, well, think again. Especially if you don't fit a certain, shall we say, aesthetic. See, Paris has a bit of a reputation for taxi drivers being, how do you say, selective with their passengers. And by selective, I mean they might just keep on driving if they see someone who doesn't quite match their preferred clientele. It's almost as if they think racism is a charming Parisian quirk, like berets or chain smoking. And don't even get me started on Islamophobia, because unfortunately it's alive and well in Paris. From discriminatory hiring practices to outright harassment, it seems some people have forgotten that France is supposed to be a beacon of liberty, equality, fraternity, and, basic human decency. But hey, at least the croissants are good, right? And finally, we arrive at our number 10 spot, Johannesburg, South Africa. A city that showcases both the breathtaking beauty and the deeply rooted scars of its past. Because while South Africa has made strides since the end of apartheid, let's just say those ghosts haven't exactly packed their bags and left. Johannesburg in particular still grapples with the legacy of racial segregation. We're talking stark economic disparities, high crime rates, and tensions that simmer just below the surface. It's a city grappling with its past while trying to forge a new future. A bit like a teenager going through an awkward growth spurt, except instead of acne, it's systemic racism. And if you think the discrimination is limited to, say, Black South Africans, well, buckle up, because foreigners, especially those from other African countries, often find themselves on the receiving end of xenophobic attacks. It's almost as if some people forgot that Nelson Mandela preached unity and forgiveness, not, let's just replace one group to discriminate against with another. Now, to be fair, you'll find plenty of welcoming and friendly people in Johannesburg, people who genuinely want to build bridges and move past the darkness of the past. But unfortunately, their efforts are often overshadowed by those who cling to old prejudices. It's like going to a potluck where everyone brings a delicious dish, but then someone shows up with a casserole made of hate and ignorance, and suddenly, no one wants to eat anymore. So if you're planning a trip to Johannesburg, be prepared for a complex and nuanced experience, one where you'll encounter both the warmth of its people and the chilling remnants of its history. Just remember, a little understanding and empathy can go a long way. And maybe pack some extra strength antacids, because dealing with that level of cognitive dissonance can really upset your stomach. Well folks, there you have it, the top 10 most racist cities in the world. A list that is as depressing as it is, unfortunately, necessary. Remember, travel should be about expanding your horizons, not your tolerance for bigotry. What do you think? Have you experienced discrimination while traveling? Drop your story in the comments. Hit like, subscribe to Informed Tourist AI, and check out our video on the most dangerous tourist destinations. Stay safe out there.